welcome to Spiritual Connection Podcast. My name is Lyra, and I am with the beautiful co-host, Ashley.
Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to thank you very much for coming on with me and doing this podcast with me. I just think we have so much to talk about
Mhm.
and a lot of great chemistry together.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I have known Ashley for both in 2020 since
Yep.
COVID,
hmm
and client turned good friend. I consider you like one of my better friends, my best friends.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
I consider you
Anyway,
family personally, but
hey. So we are going to be talking whatever comes up, any topics throughout the years, because this is going to happen for a long, long time.
hmm
For all you listeners out there, I we have a lot of information and knowledge to share with our experiences, everything that we have gone through in our lifetime, with the hope that it will help you on your journey, your spiritual awakening. Anything to add? Anything?
Yeah, we're just at least my intention, I'm sure your t intention too, is just to help people find their way to themselves. Life is very much a journey. It's not cookie cutter. There's a lot of paths to take to come back to yourself and share that with people. So I know I have a lot to share, coming from the background that I do. I was not, brought up in a spiritual community or a spiritual mindset. I did grow up Catholic, so there's a lot of that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to have conversations. But essentially, that's what it is, conversations with you to help people that may still feel embarrassed or shame or guilt that they're interested in these kinds of things because of the way either society portrays it or their family and friends, the way that they look at it. Yeah, so we'll just see where it goes.
Well, one of the things that I come across a lot with my readings and the people that I even run into down the street is people are lost. They feel like they have no purpose. They don't know why they're here. And I always get excited because that's exactly where it starts.
Oh
You don't know
yeah.
where your purpose is. Your purpose is to come from the hurt space,
hmm
go at everything with love, and then doors of opportunity start to open up for you, and you feel what resonates with you, and then you go keep going forward and not looking back.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree with that because I'd say my journey probably truthfully diving deep into the nitty-gritty of everything probably was like 2016. And um yeah, I guess you could say I had feelings of feeling lost and not knowing what my purpose was. I was finishing up grad school for occupational therapy,
Mm.
and I was in a clinical, and I was in hand therapy, which is one of the harder, I think, areas of treatment that you can be in. And I had a patient, a client, who wound up turning into a friend. And, she was always like, "Oh, you're so great and you're so beautiful and you're so funny and you have all of this to offer to the world." And at the time I was single, so she was pushing for me to find a man. But in the greater scheme of things, I was kind of like, yeah, I do have a lot to offer. And, this corporate job or this corporate clinical that I was kind of working through, in the medical field, it is a business, so they focus a lot on the reimbursement aspect. And the way that I was introduced to things, I did not feel the importance of quality. And maybe it was my mentors, I don't know, but the quality of care kind of was pushed towards the back, and it was all about the money. And I was like, well, that's not why I went to school, to pay all this freaking money for this piece of paper for me to say I could treat you. And I think that that's kind of where all of my stuff sparked from. Like, what is my purpose? I do have a calling to help people, but is it in this way, corporate style, or is it supposed to be something different? And that's kind of where I was introduced to Reiki, and
Yeah.
I was introduced to yoga at a very young age. I went through talk therapy for anxiety and depression for some things that I was going through. And my therapist at the time, which therapy is not for everybody. I went through a couple of therapists as a child to find the right one. And I finally landed on my therapist, Julie Mueller. She is in Tinley Park, I think still, but she opened my eyes to yoga and like coming into your body and like making me question um the things that I was told that I am, like from your parents, your teachers, your elders, your peers, and things like that. Really opened my eyes to like you're not just this small little person. You are much bigger and you have a bigger purpose. So I think that's kind of where my stuff started. And Reiki was my first kind of introduction to being more open to what could be and what is there. And then introductions to frequency and sound therapy and the energetic field and just like,
Mind
you know,
blown. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, all that energetic congestion or the disruption, all that stuff, they can come into a physical manifestation of
Hmm.
our dis-ease, right? And
Yep.
and I know energetically we hold on to things in different parts of our bodies, and in order to
Hmm.
work through that, you have to move, you have to do the
Oh, yeah.
energy healing, you've got to do the shadow work, the inner yuck
The
that we
uck. Yep.
don't, right, that we don't want to get faced, or like maybe realize some parts of our personality that is
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've been through
Yeah.
the uck. That is for sure.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And I think, people who are going through a spiritual awakening, they have to go through the arc so that they can live more in the heart space.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely. I
Hmm.
recently heard this thing a few days ago. I think I've mentioned it to you before about um going within and finding the self-love so that you can attract the people that's
Mm.
meant to be in your life.
Yep.
And the analogy, which I find I love it. I tell my kids this now all the time. Now remember me, the flower. The analogy is to when a flower blooms, it
Hmm.
attracts the bees so that we can have more, something
Yep.
like that, right? So that
Yep.
when we bloom, when we live in love and we have our self-love, then we start to attract the right things into our lives that
Hmm.
we are meant to have.
Hmm.
So I think, it's more about finding your purpose is self-love and coming
Oh,
from the heart space. Absolutely,
absolutely.
100%, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'd have to agree with that too, because like I self-love is very hard. At least for me. And it has been for years. I grew up in not a super safe and loving environment. I watched my male father figure belittle, my mom growing up, and that then turned into belittling us kids. Yeah, I think that's the sentence I want to say. And I never felt good enough. And my dad liked to withhold love a lot and commented on appearance and our weight a lot. And so I was reflecting on this like maybe a few days ago, like just genuinely just sitting with myself and being like, look at how far I've come. Um,
Yeah.
but like I grew up hating myself. I truthfully, like I thought I was the worst human being in the whole entire world. I thought anything that I did or I tried to give to people or I tried to help people, like it was never good enough. And that's just because from a very young age, I was programmed like, you are a woman, you are not good enough. You are not skinny enough. If you're not making, good money, you're not going to find a man, you're not going to have a family, this, that, whatever. So like up until like probably my early 20s, maybe, I genuinely like I hated myself and to give myself 5 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day. Let's even go down to 2 minutes a day of just like
Wow.
loving myself. Whether it's lighting a candle and just sitting with the scent of the candle or a bundle of sage or sitting out on a porch or in the grass and just taking intentional deep breaths. Like self-love doesn't have to look like going to get a manicure and getting a massage or a facial. Like self-love could just be stopping and just closing your eyes and just letting it all go because that's all we have right now is the present. And it took me a very long time to learn that, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
one of the best phrases I say lately too is I love and accept the part of me that hates myself, or I
mm,
love and accept the part of me that is having a bad day, or I love and accept the part of me that does not like my nose.
yep.
You know
Yep.
what I
You ha
mean? And that's one of the things is like there's no in spirituality, there are no good experiences or bad
hmm
experiences. So just all a part of your journey to help your life lessons with growth, with spiritual growth, physical growth, all that stuff. And yeah, that's so important to do. Like you said, I love that you said you spent even 2 minutes a day because that makes all the difference in the world, you know?
Well, and I think too, like the reason why I bring up, just doing 2 minutes is because we live in such a busy society.
Yeah.
I don't work as a full-time spiritual anything. I work full-time, at least right now, remote. I'll probably be back in person, here coming up soon as work picks up. But, like I don't, I always think of like, all the yoga teachers that I've taken classes with. I went through two separate yoga teacher trainings, a 200-hour and a 300-hour through Rising Lotus and Homeward Glen. Shout out to them because I love them. But I originally took those courses I wanted to be a yoga teacher. Actually, from a young age, I wanted to be a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. And I was told, nope, you're not going to make any money and you need to make money to be successful and be happy. So I kind of got rid of all of that. And I think that allowing yourself to find the things that genuinely make you happy and genuinely make you feel good in your body. Even again, even if it's just the 2 minutes, it doesn't have to be a whole hour class. It doesn't have to be, a facial, like I said. It just whatever makes you feel good. That's what it boils down to. And I think that being open to experiences and looking at them at face value, hard to do. It's not a good experience or a bad experience. Um, but just being happy and present in the moment is kind of,
Yes. Yes.
the biggest thing.
Yeah, it is hard to not take things personally, but like one of the biggest lessons that I have learned growing up now, I don't think my family's going to be listening to it, but
I know, sorry to all my family that's probably listening.
I grew up like my mom and dad were great. I'm an only child. I was spoiled rotten, so I'm probably kind of a little bit, I could have been a brat, maybe,
Sure.
but my external family was very critical and very
Mm.
judgmental and very toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And I never felt like I belonged, even with my own mom and dad sometimes, because that was their environment, that was their
Mm-hmm.
mindset, blah, blah, blah. But my mom and dad never showed me anything but love. But what I'm trying to say is, one of the things as a teenager, I finally came to the decision that their opinions of me and what I believe in and what I do and what my lifestyle has nothing to do with me, everything to do with them.
Mm.
And that is okay. That was,
That is a big lesson to learn in your teenage years because
yeah.
I only learned that lesson recently, like in my late 20s, early 30s.
Well, you don't think of it because you wonder, like, why, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with
Oh, yeah.
me?
Yep.
But I've always been a different child. I've always been the eccentric child.
Sure. Yeah.
So, in order for me to be okay, I had to come to that conclusion. How I did that, I don't know.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say, what's your secret? Well, I guess I'm already there, but for listeners that may be stuck in that cycle, like break out, don't, if you're happy and healthy, who cares?
yes, yeah, yeah. But one of the things, and I'm getting choked up thinking about it, my throat is actually
Uh,
closing up. Just even thinking about it. Wow. I was I never spoke my truth.
mm,
I always held back.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And when I did speak, I wasn't heard.
Yeah,
And
I
when
feel that.
and my throat is literally kind of like vibrating right now.
Ah,
It took me up until a few years ago that it was okay to speak my truth. It's okay.
mm,
So it kind of like, I don't know where the disconnect was between then and now, but I came to that conclusion and it was okay with me, but I never spoke up for myself at the
mm.
same time. You know what I mean? So I think that balance is definitely needed,
Oh, for sure.
right? And I think you're very, very speaking your truth.
I'm
Wow.
trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
yeah, and you discern it too, like when it's,
Hmm.
appropriate or not, but not even appropriate, just like, is it even worth
Is it
the,
worth the energy of putting it out there? Because
yeah,
you are going to have people that are going to be haters and they are
yeah,
not open to the experiences that you have been open to. They also may not have the open-mindedness to even consider whatever it is, whatever perspective or mindset that you have to offer, to get to that point. Because I still have a lot of people, I live in the van. We had a house in Tinley Park, a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and then we sold it at the beginning of the pandemic for money for the van.
yeah.
Zach and I, my husband, we wound up building out. I have people that are like, I don't know why you gave up the American dream, you know. And it's just like, well, I mean, I'm happy and I'm healthy and it made sense to me, so I just ran with it. And it took me a very long time to to your, you know, um, comment about learning in your teenage years to like really like, I'm happy, I'm healthy. If I want to live my life, this is how I'm going to live it. And
Yes.
everyone else's opinions, that's an issue with them. They can't see it for themselves because they have it completely blocked off and
But
very hard lesson.
you totally brought up another point. Okay, so that person's American dream is the house, the farms,
Yep.
all that stuff. That's not your American dream.
Oh,
We've been
I,
so conditioned to say you need a house, you need to have this, you gotta have that. And it's like I live in an HOA, a homeowners
oh,
association,
yep. Hmm.
and it's the most boring neighborhood ever.
Yeah.
Everything's the same. I
Yeah.
don't like it. I like dandelion in my yard.
Yard.
Why?
Yep.
Why is that so wrong?
Hmm.
You know what I mean, right?
I know, girl, I know. Because believe
Yeah.
me, I'm in a van down by the river. I
Yeah,
love
there
it.
you go.
That's
Down
my
by the
American
river.
dream.
Yeah, yeah. So I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
That's okay.
yeah, but yeah, I that's a whole nother thing, like the conditioning how we should be and not
Hmm.
living from the heart space. I mean, it all
Hmm.
comes back to that. Is this really what you want? You
Yeah.
know?
And
So
it looks, and then, like we said at the beginning, it all looks different for people, like my happiness and my journey and the way that I'm coming back to living in the heart-centered space is going to look very different than yours. It's still going to look very, loving, unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, empathy, those types of things, obviously general terms, but the way that we come back to ourselves is going to look different. Like I very much enjoy yoga. And I went through all those yoga teacher trainings thinking I was going to be a yoga teacher, but really I kind of just did it to like come back to myself and like realize, strip away everything that, my parents had told me, my grandparents had told me, my aunts and my uncles have told me, my teachers have told me. Strip all of that away. What do I want? What do I want? What makes me happy? And here I am.
Wow, wow, unfiltered Ashley. And I love it. It looks good on you.
Thank you.
I love it. But yeah, and then yeah, that where it boils down to. What is your true self? How
Hmm.
do you and how do you like navigate through all of that? And it's just living your truth. That's okay. If you want to not like me, if you want to be
Hmm.
jealous, if you want to do this or that, that's on you.
Yep.
I'm okay.
Yep.
And that's your self-worth. That's where your confidence comes. That all that. What is that in your Reiki training? Do you know what chakra that is?
Oh, solar plexus.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
No, I'm kidding. I'm
Thank
kidding.
God I passed.
But yeah, that's your solar plexus. And when you go into the energy healing, or even when you do self healing, all that empowerment, all of that is in your solar plexus.
Hmm.
And being able to speak it and from your
Hmm.
heart. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother podcast, I think.
For real. There's so many things that we're bringing up that I'm like, okay, we could do, a conversation about this. We could do a conversation about that and dive deeper into that. There's just so much,
Yeah.
and I think too, like coming back to, the points of us self-care, self-worth, knowing your truth and things like that. I think too, having a community of people that are like-minded or, have similar, um, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say ideologies, but
Similar beliefs
yeah, I
or
guess beliefs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Similar beliefs, similar mindset. Like I think that's very important because like when I started like the true healing journey, I did not have a lot of people in my life that were open to having conversations like this or talking about their raw experiences. And I didn't really have anyone to ask these questions to, like I text you all the time. I'm like, hey, I had a vision of this, or when I was doing, this meditation, this came through. And you and I have, we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that I had met you in 2020 at a Holistic Happenings in Tinley Park. It was during COVID times, things were weird, not really in-person things. You were doing email readings. And I was like, well, what's an email reading? I've never done like a mediumship reading. The only experience that I personally had with like a medium would have been at my grandma's um, luncheon funeral service or whatever.
oh yeah.
And a woman approached, I was standing talking to someone, and this woman came in, and I loved her green jacket, and I was just very drawn to her. And again, this is going to be the beginning of 2020. I lost my grandma January of 2020. I was very drawn to her coat, and I should have like that's why I was drawn to her. She had a message for me, and she very much was like, are you? She's like, oh, come here, and I was like, well, we're not paying. She's like, come here, I have a message for you, and I was like. You have a message from me. Okay. So I went up to her and I was like, we're not in line. You can go pay or pick up your food. She's like, no, no, no. Are you here because you lost someone? And I'm thinking, I'm wearing all black, like everyone else is wearing black. We're all crying, like, what gave it away? And she's like, because you don't like, come on, So
Right.
she must have also been an evidential medium. I know that that's kind of what you do is you bring evidence forth, and she was like, I feel like it's a grandmother energy or a mother female energy. And she's like, I feel a tightness in my chest and I feel like my heart's stopping and something with breathing in my throat. And we are convinced as a family that my grandma might have had COVID. She was put on a ventilator like 3 or 4 times. We were
Oh,
told it was pneumonia. And this was back in the end of 2019. So COVID wasn't as well known as it was, in the beginning of 2020. And, so I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, my grandma, she collapsed during physical therapy, and had a heart attack. And before that, she was put on a ventilator 3 or 4 times because of breathing issues. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. I can take that. And then she just like, because I was just so blasted and so open to the healing and the messages, she
yeah.
was like rattling off all of this stuff. She's like, there's this that's going to happen, and there's this good that's going to happen, and then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. And all of it, I'd have to go back. I think my journal's in storage in Indiana, but I wrote down everything that she like predicted. And it didn't all happen like right away. So like I think another important thing for people who have not had mediumship readings or psychic readings or any type of readings, whatever that you're connecting with the spirit world, just because Lyra says, you know, August, this is going to happen, that doesn't necessarily mean like this August. It could be like 5 Augusts from now, or maybe it
Yes.
happened 2 Augusts ago, and it's just bringing validation because when she brought forth all of this information of all these things that were going to come up and happen, I was like, okay, this is January. She said in 3 months, this thing is going to happen. And then that thing didn't happen. And I was like, I
Yeah.
was expecting a raise at work, like that woman said. She's
Yeah.
fake. So um she wound up actually predicting we were supposed to get married in 2020, my husband and I, and our wedding got canceled 3 or 4 times because of COVID and the restrictions of people gathering. And so that was one of the things that she predicted, and we were in the middle of planning everything. So I was like, I that wasn't even in my mindset. I'm like, we're gonna get married. And then yeah, COVID canceled. And I was like, that's
Oh
what she was
man.
talking about. But there's people that would not be open to that type of
No.
reading and things like that. And so when I had reached out to you for an email reading, I had just lost my grandma in January of 2020, and I don't remember at what point in 2020 we connected, but it was when the world was kind of shut down. And just the things that you brought forth. I don't really remember what the point of the whole story was, but I'm just going to talk about my
No.
experience with you. But you brought forth like details of my grandma's journey, specifically when she was in the hospital and end of life, that I wouldn't have shared with anyone, that no one in the family would have shared with anyone. And to know that you connected with that was just like, what? And then you'll have people that are like, no, she must have read it online somewhere, or she must have somehow heard it from someone. And my whole thing is I didn't really know you in 2020. I was just like, yep, I'm gonna be open to this experience. I had that one lady that kind of read me at grandma's funeral luncheon. I'm going to do this email reading. And then, like, again, when you brought forth all of that evidence, all those details that I wouldn't have told anybody, um, blew my mind. And just the healing, you had even described memories that I had of my grandma. And I wouldn't have told you, because again, we just met. Why would I tell you about the time that my grandparents took me to Rainbow Cone and I had ice cream all over my face and it was dripping, and like that was my grandma's favorite memory of us, type thing. And
Oh,
so I just think,
yeah.
I don't know, all the stuff that you do, ever since that first email reading, I've kind of just been chasing you in the sense of the classes you offer, the teachings that you offer, the mentorship programs, things like that, because truthfully this path has opened me up to so much. And reflecting back on my journey, like I've come such a far way. I do love myself more than I have in the past. Those affirmations I do say a lot. I love myself, the parts of me that reject the parts of who I am, or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
The
yeah,
inner child healing,
oh yes, the
the
inner child.
cave.
Oh girl, yes. That's
Yes,
a whole other that's a
that's
whole other
another
podcast.
podcast. Oh, we're gonna be writing this stuff down.
But but yeah, I don't know. It's been a beautiful experience to witness my own healing and to see what doubts and fears and anxieties and, frustrations I have been able to overcome with learning from a community of like-minded people, having a mentor that is willing to meet me where I'm at in order to elevate me and rise me up again. So,
Yeah, and that's one of oh God, you brought up so many different points. I gotta remember them all. About the timing, that was one of the ones that I had to learn. As I was doing this more for the public and for people, I would get a timeline in my head and from spirit, and but the thing that I need to express is that they have no timeline. Everything
mhm,
is all linear, it's everything is all, the past, present, and future is all happening at the same time. So they
mhm,
have no concept of time. And that's very true. I could be telling you a timeline and it happened 3 years ago,
mhm,
or it's going to happen in 10 years in the future,
right.
which is not very helpful sometimes. And people get frustrated and they're like, well, you
I
got
have
this.
been.
I'm like, yeah, maybe not this year. So I try to not do timelines. If
Yeah,
it comes forward, I'll say it, but I have to like tell them, yeah, well, maybe not this year, but it will happen in this month.
at some
Some
point.
at some
Yeah.
point. But the other thing is me as the practitioner or the mentor or whatever you want to
Whatever
call them.
title. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I don't do labels, so it's
Mm.
hard. I don't know what to label me. But anyway,
Earth Angel.
thank you. That made me giggle. But um watching you and this other lady that I had just concluded a mentorship with,
Hmm.
from when you started to now, it brings me like pride because you guys did the work, you did the inner work,
Hmm.
you had a goal, you had the intention, the right intention, pure intention, good intention, and you I mean, this is a lifetime of work that we all
Oh
have to
yeah.
go through.
Yep.
But compared to where you were 4 years ago to
Whew.
now,
Yeah. I like don't even recognize the girl 4 years ago. Like I was just telling that to Zach the other day. I'm like, huh. Like
oh,
I thought this of myself, or I was seeing things like this, and now it's totally flipped. And all just because I've opened my mind, I've opened my heart to those experiences to overcome or heal those parts of me.
yeah. And being able to witness your journey in particular, it's just like it blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, wow. Sometimes,
Thank
and then the best part of it is that we learn from each other. Like I'm learning a
hmm.
lot from you just by watching or even what you have to say.
Oh, thank you.
And it's just like, oh, I never thought of that. The perspectives, the
Hmm.
things that you come up with sometimes, I'm just like, oh my gosh, yeah, I like that.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely learn from each other.
Hmm.
And this lady that I just did a mentorship with, it was more, she was really, really amazing, but she just needed her confidence, her solar plexus. So
Hmm.
we did an inner child healing. We did what did we do? Like energy, spiritual energy with the elementals,
Ooh.
where she had fire coming out of her head, and she had earth in her heart, and she had water in her third eye. It was like crazy visuals.
Now, did she see those visuals or were you seeing those visuals as
She
you were
saw
talking?
the fire, and I think you did too, something with fire around the head.
Yeah, I
Sh-
did a meditation with you, where you brought elementals in and you did something with burning away energy or something in the aura
Yes.
field. And I literally felt like fire was coming like slowly down as you were describing it in the meditation, and then just like a coolness like wisped away. And I will say
Wow.
too, as I'm describing this, just because I'm thinking back to myself, 4, 5, 6 years ago, I did not start feeling or seeing things during meditations or Reiki sessions or healing sessions or whatever until recently. And it's because I I blocked myself as a child to experiencing things, outside of myself. I blocked all of that out. And we could talk about that another time, but I just wanted to put in a note, even though I'm saying, I felt the fire and stuff like that. You have to be open to feeling those things. You have to be open
Open to
to,
it. Yeah.
because like at the beginning of meditation, things like that, and even in yoga teacher training, like I was trying so hard to bring forth feeling the fire or feeling the coldness of the wind or the water or whatever, the person doing the guided meditation was describing. And I just couldn't feel it because I was A, trying
Yeah.
too hard, and B, I really wasn't super open up to the experience. Although I said I wanted to do it, comes back to the inner child. My inner child was like, hell no, I shut that off for a reason. We are not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So until I started working with you with the inner child, I really did not. I didn't have visions, coming forth to me. I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel really any shifts until I told my inner child. And again, this is another podcast, episode. Um, until I told her, like, it's okay. Like, I am an adult now. I'll explain things to you. We'll make sure we're doing proper protection and things like that. So I just wanted to throw that tidbit in. Like, yes, I did recently do a meditation with you where you brought in the elements and fire, and I felt it, but it wasn't until recently. And you can't have that expectation for yourself too,
Yes.
because I did that to myself. Especially when, one of the first readings or Reiki sessions or whatever, I had asked you, what did you see or what did you experience as the practitioner? Because I didn't feel anything. And you had said something about, me being closed off, and I do have these gifts. I just have to open up and let go of that fear, that doubt, that anxiety. And until that inner child feels safe, you're probably not going to have those experiences. At least that I'm only speaking for myself. I did not have those experiences because my inner child did not feel safe. And she was like, nope, no, no, no.
No. Yeah, so that's the big thing. Release the expectation and don't be
Mhm.
attached to the outcome, and just kind of let the experiences wash over. And yeah, you hit it on all the points. Yeah. Yay.
That's good. No, I don't know.
You good.
What would you say is what has been your favorite part of your journey? From
Oh,
like the start of like your awakening or, accepting those parts of you to where you are now. Do you have a favorite part? Is
meeting
there,
you, of course.
oh, you're gonna make me blush.
Well, my can't really pick one thing.
Hmm.
So they say spiritual awakening comes from trauma, right?
Hmm.
But it can come from illnesses, it can come from so many different ways. It's something just kind of like makes sense to you, and then you start exploring. However, right?
Yep.
When I was 18 months old, I had spinal meningitis. And the story my mom used to tell me was that it was like 3 in the morning or something like that, the witching hour, right?
Ah.
Right? And I was like blue in the
Oh,
hospital.
wow.
I was completely blue. And a nurse just happened to walk in. A nurse just happened to walk in and revived me.
Wow.
which
So
thank
you
you.
weren't breathing.
I wasn't breathing.
Wow.
Everything. I just stopped. But she revived me. She was able to
Oh,
bring me back.
thank God. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's when a lot of my traumas began. Even though I don't really remember it,
Hmm.
I remember things leading up to just like uh well, it was the 70s, so there was a lot of unethical
Sure.
practices back
Yep.
then, you know. So and I remember I carry that with me still to this day. I wake up in a cold sweat, you
Hmm.
know. But anyway, so that was my trauma from a young age.
Sure.
But I also grew up with this, you know. So some of my favorite memories from childhood is going to Camp Chesterfield in
Mm.
Indiana with my grandparents and doing the seances and all and hearing my dad say, "Ooh, you're doing the woo stuff," you know, and just kind of making fun and light of
Yeah.
it. And my grandma doing spiritual healing on me because I had partial hearing loss
Hmm.
from that, you know. So and I never knew what that was other than my grandma putting her hands on me or
Oh, you
me
didn't know what
go,
the healing was.
yeah, I
Okay.
don't know. I knew she was doing something, but I didn't
Sure.
know what. And I can go to Camp Chesterfield and I have like five people praying over me, you know. And anyway, so fast forward many years, I saw something probably on Facebook where they were talking about Reiki healing.
Mm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that's what it is. That's what they were doing. It's not what they were doing. It's just a different form of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I learned Reiki, and I think connecting with people at Camp Chesterfield as much as I can because I don't drive, you know, I
Right.
everything's online, but and having some good friends from camp and understanding the journeys and having somebody understand my weirdness or
Hmm.
quirkiness or whatever, you know, feeling like I belong. Because I never felt like I belonged anywhere growing up or even in school or even in my own families,
Hmm.
So meeting you, it is one of my favorite parts, and reconnecting with my friend Lisa because she does Reiki, and we get to talk
Hmm.
about stuff like that. And I don't know, and I gotta say, my mentorship and the inner child healing is like it really makes me feel like I'm being of service from God.
Hmm.
God
Hmm.
is using me to help other people. And I think that, actually, I can't think of one particular thing right now, but I think the
That's
whole
okay. It could be the whole
journey.
journey. I was gonna say it could be the whole journey at this point, you know?
Yeah, and I think, and God's not done with me yet. There's so many things going on in my head, like, holy cow, how am I going to do all of it? But it's coming together. It's
Yep.
all coming together. So
All in divine timing.
trust the
J-
process.
Trust the
Oh, your
process.
mom made a post about that. And
Well,
for the
I
list,
posted for her, but yeah, yeah, me trying to be like the optimistic, like, there's a lesson in here. You gotta learn it. She's
and
like,
she's like, break the process.
pretty
Yes,
much.
yes.
Which I do agree with that too.
Oh, yeah.
Recent times I've been like, this damn process, like, just figure it out already.
Yeah, yeah. And being an Aries, I'm super impatient. Even though I'm more patient than I used to be.
Sure. Yep.
Come on, let's go
Yep.
already. I just smacked something on it. Anyway, so yeah, I think the whole journey is just amazing. Every day, like really being present in the moment,
Hmm.
there's really a lot to that.
Oh
And
yeah.
what was your saying? I'm having the best day so far.
Oh yeah, this is my best day so far. Yep, I read that article, and I'll share with the podcast because they don't know what we're talking about. I had read an article or saw a video or something on the interwebs, so take it with whatever grain of salt. And it was this girl, explaining how she shifted her mindset. And it could be just as easy as using a phrase, and just changing the way that you're answering, because the things that we say have power to it. We call it spelling for a reason, and speaking, you're speaking those spells. So changing your mindset, she said that she had an uncle who, ever since she could remember as a kid, hey, uncle so and so, how are you? Or how are you doing? And his answer every single time was, it's my best day ever, or it's my best day yet. And, okay, fine, whatever. And she said that years later, when she was an adult, um, he wound up losing his wife to cancer, and it was a very painful process for her, and just a lot of hardship that comes with, cancer diagnoses and things like that. And um, she had flown in for the funeral, and she was like, I kind of was testing my uncle to see if his answer would change, because, every time I ask him, how's he doing? Oh, it's my best day yet. He just lost his wife. So there's no way he's going to answer that. And so she's like, I know I was a B word for doing that, but she's like, I just wanted to see. So she, went up to her uncle and said, Uncle so and so, how are you doing? Knowing that they're at the funeral. And he's like, this is my best day yet. And she was like, I was so offended. How can he say it's his best day yet? His wife just died. She went through a painful, treatment, diagnosis journey of cancer, and da 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 da. And she's like, I asked my uncle, like, why would you say that? And he said, well, because at the end of the day, although she's gone physically, I know that someday I will reunite with her, with God and Jesus and all of our loved ones. And she's no longer in pain, and she's no longer suffering. And now I have a guardian angel watching over me. So it's my best day yet. And I just sat there, and I have goosebumps now. I'm looking at my skin. I've got goosebumps. But like, how powerful is that? Like, yes, that situation sucks. You lost someone you love to something that is a nasty beast in today's society, and we still don't have a cure that we know of, and things like that. And for him to say, like, this is my best day yet, because I know I will see her again. I know she's not in pain. So therefore it is a good day because she's not in pain. And it's like, if you could just think that way, every day, how much happier would we be? How much more at peace would we be? Is my biggest thing. So,
That's really a mindset to try to adapt to, try to
mhm.
really, really.
Easier said than done, like many
Oh,
things on this
yes.
spiritual journey,
Well, it's
you
easy
know.
to get caught up in the yuck of life,
Yeah, the chaos of life. Yep.
But if you can take a step back and not be attached to the outcome and just let
Hmm.
things be in the moment, all that, it really does make, I know I have goosebumps all up and down my back.
Just validation, it makes sense.
Yes, thank you, God. Okay. Well, my dear, um, I had to start for my, other followers that I had for my other podcast. I had to start a new one because for some reason I couldn't sign into my Spotify. No matter what I do, I restarted everything. So a lot of things have been happening in my life where I had to just kind of be fresh and start new and start. I changed my name of my business, everything. So this is why we have a new podcast. Because I really do believe in signs and
Hmm.
everything pushing me away from the old and get a new face for everything. So I hope you guys will comment and listen and share and do all the stuff for this podcast with Ashley. And I want to thank you all for listening. And we are going to be doing a lot more of these in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably do some healings and all kinds of conversations. There's a lot to talk about here. Just from this podcast,
Hmm.
maybe what, 10 different topics came
Oh,
up,
for sure. Easily, easily.
easily. So, Ashley, thank you again for being
Thank you for
here.
having me. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And I think be a regular. So
Cool. Hopefully you guys all get used to my shenanigans.
yeah.
You know what I was thinking? You had made a comment about my headphones changing colors and stuff like that. It's
I
disco
love
balls
it.
on my ears. The dance party's always with me.
Oh, the disco ball. Yes.
That's another podcast story,
It's
but
another podcast. Yes.
I was
I
just thinking, I was
love
looking at
it.
myself in the reflection. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got disco balls on my ears. The party's always with me.
I love it. I love that. We
Goofy.
need to have our disco balls behind us somewhere.
Ah,
I think so. I had one hanging on my shelf, and
mhm.
somehow it's like missing. I think my cat took it.
That or one of my grandparents are playing trick on you because
I
that's been
wouldn't put it
happening.
past them.
Yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't put it past them. They're always messing with me somehow. So,
yeah.
all right. Okay, so until next time,
Yep.
have a mindful day.
Beautiful. Bye, everybody.
Bye.